Welcome to the Stranded podcast miniseries. This miniseries was written and read by Matt Spear. Episode 3, The Raft. I sat in a rock, reading the only graphic novel that I had that was not destroyed in the crash. My name is Simon, and I'm 11 years old. I have a mom and a dad. I also have a sister named Claire. A few days ago, our plane to France crashed, and we landed on a deserted island. Mom and Dad just came back from getting food, and Claire is on her phone. As I sat there reading a page about raft building, I suddenly got an idea. I stood up and walked over to my parents. When they saw me, Dad handed me a fish that they had caught and a knife. "Go gut that fish for us," he demanded. I looked at Dad nervously, unsure if I should tell him my idea. "Dad, I have an idea. In my graphic novel, the characters built a raft out of nothing. I was thinking that I could build one too, and we could ride it off the island," I told my parents. Dad stared at me angrily. "Why would you think that could ever be a good idea?" he asked me angrily. "Because it can get us off the island," I said hopefully. Dad kept staring at me, more and more annoyed. "It won't work," he said dismissively. "It worked in the novels, so that means it could." Before I got a chance to finish, Dad interrupted me. "No, it will not work because those are just silly graphic novels and not reality. In real life, it does not work like that. Now go use the skills I taught you that are useful and gut that fish." He gestured at the fish as he snapped at me. I turned around and started walking back to my rock. Why is Dad always so difficult to please? I want to make him proud of me and see me as more than just a disappointment. I then stumbled over something and fell, breaking my train of thought. I looked over to what I tripped on. It was a small piece of rope lying on the ground. I threw some sand at it and looked back at the fish, but instead of heading back to my rock, I got an idea. If I build a raft, then Dad will see that it could work. The first thing I needed to do was to get materials. I decided to walk along the beach to see what I could find. As I walked, Claire walked past me, not realizing I was there. "Claire, would you like to help me build the raft?" I said to her, but she just kept pacing back and forth. "I can't get a signal," she said, frustrated, and kept walking. What a typical Claire. I resumed walking along the beach of the sand and enjoying the nice feel of the cool sand and water splashing over. I kept my eyes peeled for any scrap pieces of plane that I could use. Eventually, I had collected enough pieces that I was finally ready to put them together. I walked back to my rock, eager to start building. I could not wait to show Dad what I was capable of. I laid down all the pieces and I began to assemble them. In my novel, it said to start with the bottom piece, and then to build a second level for people to sit on. I started to assemble the base, but I noticed a problem. None of the pieces would stick together. I put down the pieces and sighed, frustrated. I looked into my novel for an answer, but the only thing that said it would work is glue. I started growing even more frustrated. I picked up my novel and threw it across the sand as the sun reflected off one of the pieces of the raft. I held up my hand in front of my eyes and turned the other way, looking at a cluster of trees nearby. Looking at the trees, I started to notice something dripping down the bark. As I got closer to take a look, I realized it was tree sap. A sudden sense of hope and excitement rushed over me. I can use the sap to hold everything together. There was just one problem with the trees, however. They were 15 feet off the ground. To get the sap, I would have to climb up. I grabbed the base of the trees and hooked my legs around it. The tree felt cold and slippery. I started up the tree by pulling myself up. My palms sweated against the bark, and my hands felt like they were on fire, but I just tried to ignore the pain and continue up the tree. Finally, after what felt like forever, I finally made it to the top of the tree. The wind blew in my face as I reached for the thick leaf and put it under the sap. Once I felt like I had enough, I climbed down and began to assemble the raft with the sap. When I finally finished assembling the pieces, I stared at it with satisfaction. The raft was light enough to float in the water, but big enough to hold my entire family. It was the size of a gigantic rectangle, and there were several seating areas as well as a steering wheel. I stared at it with satisfaction. I couldn't wait to show Dad. I started pushing it to the water, but as I did, the pieces started quickly breaking apart from their place and the entire raft collapsed. I groaned, frustrated. All the joy I was feeling quickly disappeared. To make things worse, Dad just had to witness the entire collapse and came over to me at that moment. "Are you deaf?" Dad called. I started to grow very, very nervous. "I told you to go gut a fish and you go ahead and build a fort," he yelled. "I was trying to build a raft I told you about," I told him. Dad just groaned. "To think I didn't like it when it was just a silly idea, but now you have wasted valuable time on an art project and let your mother gut the fish herself. Now abandon your dumb ideas and help me start a fire to cook the fish that you were supposed to take care of," he lectured me. "Please, Dad, I know it will work. If you just listen to me," I pleaded. "No! That is enough. You are a disgrace to our family and its legacy. I am ashamed to have ever been your father," he screamed at me and ran off to check on Mom. I just stood there, tears filling my eyes. Why would he say that to me? Does he really think I'm a disgrace? I fell to my knees and started crying. Why does he never have any faith in me? How can I show him that I'm not a disgrace? I stared at the sand and watched my tears fall down and dissolve into it. My raft went wrong because I couldn't bring it to the water. So maybe if I find a way to do that, then it will work. I started to calm down and regathered myself. I took a deep breath of the warm air and exhaled, watching the sand blow from it. I dug out my graphic novel and started searching for a way to solve the problem. Next to the picture for the raft, there was a picture of wheels. If I build the wheels, then I can take the raft to the water. I walked along the beach again, collecting more scrap pieces of plane, and assembled them together with the sap. By the time I was done, my hands were cut and cracked, but it was worth it. I knew the raft would work this time. I was about to take the raft to the water, just as Mom walked over. "Simon, your father's very upset. Maybe you should go help him," she told me. I looked over at her, and she looked back at me, smiling warmly. "What are you building?" she asked. "It's a raft to get us off the island," I told her. "Do you think Dad will like it? He didn't like it last time." "I'll go talk to him," Mom said, and then went over to talk to Dad. While she did that, I braced myself for Dad to come over with another lecture of what a failure I was. But when he walked over, he just stood there, looking at the raft. "Will it work?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. He turned to look over at Mom and then to the water. "Do you need any help bringing it down to the water?" he asked. He actually liked the raft? "Okay," I replied. Together, the two of us brought it to the water, and Mom and Claire boarded it as well. We were about to leave the island. However, as we were sailing out, Claire cried, "Wait, I forgot my phone!" "Don't worry, I'll go get it," I told her. I walked back to the shore and picked up Claire's phone. As I was walking back to the water, however, I didn't notice a snake slithering past, and I stepped on it. In the snake's self-defense, it bit me, and I stumbled back in pain. I fell on something hard as it pulled me into the air. I was caught in an old hunter trap. I tried breaking free, but the net was too thick, so I yelled for my family to help. Will Joe, Walter, and Claire be able to get to Simon before it's too late, or will the snake venom kill him? Come back next time in the Stranded podcast miniseries to find out. Thank you for listening.